What do you get when you mix haunted theaters, the ghost of Lemmy, and deeply rooted spiritual traditions that challenge every horror trope you've seen on screen? In this episode of Don't Turn Around, I sit down with the incredible Tammie Chavez, audio storyteller, investigator, and co-host of Hollyweird Paranormal, to explore everything from haunted LA landmarks to the sacred practice of Santería. Trust me, you're going to want to turn the lights down for this one.
We just don't know what really causes this phenomenon. So this has been going on for a very long time, but every time it happens, the scientists come up with a new far-fetched explanation for it. We just don't know what really causes this phenomenon. And that's what the witnesses are always describing, incredible as it is.
Welcome to Don't Turn Around, a podcast about the paranormal and the unexplained, and the often profound impact these events have on our lives. This is a space for amazing stories about the human experience and how it intersects with the paranormal. If you've got an experience and you're so inclined to share it, feel free to shoot me a note at dtapodcastinfo@gmail.com. Thank you to the Don't Turn Around listener community. Without you, this show would not be possible. Thank you to our Patreon followers. Your support helps us keep the lights on, keeps the servers up and running, and helps us get these stories out to ears every month. One final note. If you are feeling motivated, and if you even want to hit that pause button and swing by Apple Podcasts and leave Don't Turn Around a 5-star review, your reviews go a very long way to, again, helping get this show out to more ears. And that's the whole point. This is a show that is about stories and storytelling. And the key component to that is to have that audience to be able to hear these incredible stories. Okay, that being said, tonight's guest is a Los Angeles-based audio storyteller, podcaster, and paranormal enthusiast known as the co-host and creator of the hit podcast, Hollyweird Paranormal. Blending her passion for the supernatural with a background in audio production and performance, she brings a unique voice to the world of paranormal media. Her work delves into true crime, haunted histories, and unexplained phenomena through a lens that is equal parts spooky and empathetic. A proud New Orleans native, she infuses her storytelling with the mystique and cultural richness of her hometown, while her background in theater and audio design enhances the immersive quality of her productions. She's also an educator, sharing her expertise in audio and performance with students in the greater Los Angeles area. Through Hollyweird Paranormal, she has built a loyal following of listeners who are drawn to her authentic storytelling, witty, extremely witty commentary, and a deep respect for the strange and unusual. Tammie Chavez, welcome so very much to Don't Turn Around.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Happy. So for the listeners, we had the opportunity to connect in person in Gettysburg. We had a delightful dinner together, and if I wasn't hooked, if I wasn't hooked already, well, that just kind of that sold me 100%. You are such an amazing member of the paranormal community, so it's an honor to have you here on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. And it was an honor having dinner with you guys in one of the most haunted restaurants in Gettysburg.
How cool is that?
It was great. I was like slightly fangirling and just super happy that I got to meet you guys in person and share ghost stories and adventures.
Always the best. It is always the best when you get to sit down, break bread with kindred spirits and just get into it. And just get into it.
We literally broke bread. That place, that restaurant had the best basket of bread.
Oh my gosh, the bread was so delicious. And was that the Farnsworth house?
Yeah, that was the Farnsworth. Yeah, that was, oh God, everything was so good.
Highly recommended to the listeners.
Forgot that place was haunted.
Yes, I know. It was so good. We forgot all about the ghosts.
Yeah.
So, Tammie, with first-time guests, I like to start at the beginning. I like to get into the origin story. And I'd like to know, where did this interest in the paranormal that later became a clear passion, where did this all begin for you?
Growing up in New Orleans, I always felt like that city was so unique, but also very mystical. Like there was a mysticism to it. And spiritually, you just felt it in the air, especially during Halloween. You knew there's some weird stuff going on in that city. And it was always so intriguing. And then as I got older, I got involved with theater. I became a costumer, and I was working my way up to being a costume designer. So I was making my rounds throughout the local theater scene in the city, working backstage. And a lot of these theaters I worked in were haunted. What theater isn't? But in New Orleans, they're definitely haunted. And I had my first paranormal experience in a haunted theater in a university. And I saw I didn't physically see him like full body apparition, but I felt like there was someone who was watching me cut fabric in the front foyer of a theater. And in my mind's eye, I could clearly see him. It was the weirdest thing. I could see him in the corner of my eye, standing by the banister of a staircase. And in my mind's eye, I was like, this guy's wearing all theater blacks, looks like a crew member. He has black hair, black stash, and he's just watching me. And I go and tell the ladies of the shop what I thought I saw, and they all stopped dead in their tracks. They're like, "Oh, you saw Bob," and I'm like, "What?"
Like he has a name.
You gave him a name. So as we're talking about Bob, the props director comes in. They tell her Tammie saw Bob, and I'm like, okay, this is legit. I'm thinking they're joking with me. This is my first year. They're like, Tammie saw Bob, and the director's like, yeah, we all know Bob. Bob was my mentor. I'm like, how is that so? Well, Bob used to work here. And he worked here for many, many years. He died of cancer, and he still comes back to work, and he makes himself known to newbies. You're new. And that means that's a good thing. He likes you. So welcome.
Okay.
Like,
what happens when he doesn't like you? Does he just not show himself, or does he mess with you?
Right? So the biggest kicker was, I'm like, okay, what does he look like? And she said, well, I remember him always wearing his theater blacks. He had black hair and a black mustache. I'm like, done. That is who I saw in my head. I was like, I kept on seeing this man in the corner of my eye, and I could clearly see what he looked like in my mind. And that just catapulted me into pursuing the unknown until I moved to Hollywood. And then I worked in another haunted theater, a haunted acting school that was on the grounds of the Charlie Chaplin bungalows next door to his former studio. And there were always these weird stories that circulated about a man in a bowler hat, and security would see him past like crazy hours, and people would see this figure in this theater. So my coworker and I, we decided, let's talk about these stories. No one knows about these stories. We always hear about the Queen Mary ghost, the Black Dahlia ghosts. And I'm like, there's so many embedded stories here that haven't really been given its flowers. So let's do it. So we created Hollyweird Paranormal. I created that with my co-host, Bryce Mitchell-Williams. And we've been going strong since 2018. That's a good tenure.
Right there. That's a good tenure.
It's so insane.
It's it's a great show. I mean, I enjoy it so much. Your chemistry with Bryce is just, it's so great. It's so great. And the topics you've covered, which I'm going to get into a couple locations a little later in the show, but it's great content. So thank you for putting that out there and putting in the effort, of course, that it takes to pull off a production. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but you make it look effortless.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit to growing up in New Orleans. Would you say that there is a general acceptance of the spirits and spirituality that's a little more pervasive than you might experience somewhere else in the country?
Absolutely. Especially like when you go there and you sit and talk to the people that live there, talk to the people that work in these places, they're very open to it.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's just a part of life. Spiritualism is definitely a part of life in that city. And I mean, that city is just, I mean, it's a big gumbo pot of so much, you know, of culture, of color and spiritualism. And I mean, there's an amoosh boosh of everything there, and people are just so open to it. And there's some places where you go to, like, surprisingly, when I went to Gettysburg last summer, I would ask the public about like ghost stories and experiences that they've had in their local businesses. Some people were very open, but others were very like, no, rather not, you know, or no, I didn't have much, you know, I don't know. They were just kind of like
evasive a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But you go to New Orleans and it's le bon ton, you know, it's every, you know, good times roll. If you like that stuff, okay, let's have a drink and talk about it.
I mean, between the jazz and the ghosts, it is definitely on my list of places to visit because I've never been down there. I've never had the opportunity to go down there. So
I get so many emails. I have a list already on a file that I just send to people. Like, you want to take this tour, you want to go eat here, you want to go drink here, you want to go and just, you know, have a dessert here. Yeah. Like, let me know, hit me up.
Yeah. Do you go back often?
Yes, I go back 2 to 3 times a year because I have family that lives there. My parents have property there that now my husband and I have decided to go ahead and purchase. We're in the process of purchasing my family home in Metairie. And Metairie is like a little suburb area, 15 minutes outside of New Orleans. And it just felt right. You know, no, none of my siblings wanted it. And I'm like, I want it. This is my home. And there's a part of it that's calling it to me. And I love coming back to the city. So I have a feeling like we're going to come back and probably retire there. Who knows?
You know, and it's funny because while I don't necessarily subscribe to the concept of fate, you know, I believe that the universe guides us in certain ways. I think of I think of these sort of cosmic energies like currents in the ocean, and you catch the right current and it takes you to a certain destination. You catch another current, it takes you in another direction. So I feel like there's mechanisms at work that we will never understand. But I think when you get that gut feeling, I think that means you are starting to catch that current and you just need to go with it. So I'm excited to see where that goes for you. So that's your retirement plan then.
Yeah, it's my retirement. I mean, it's scary. It's real because we are currently, you know, paying a mortgage for a place here in Los Angeles, and that's expensive.
Yeah, not cheap, right?
It's not cheap, but everybody has been so supportive. Yeah. Charlie's family, my husband, my family, and friends, people who I know that work in the industry, like the real estate industry, they're like, do it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah,
it's meant to be.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah, I love that.
It feels good.
That.
Yeah,
I love that. Is the property haunted? Do you
I
think?
Wish, but it's funny because there is this company right behind us, and it's been around for I'm not even joking, 130 years.
Wow!
They build these wooden pallets, and I mean, my mom has known the great grandfather, the grandfather, and the father, and now the son. So it's like a generational company. Yeah. And I've been wanting to ask them, like, hey, is there something here? You know it. It's so old looking.
You need to ask. Have you been in the property? Have you been inside?
Yes, because we wanted some wooden pallets to build some crafty stuff for my wedding because I got married there in 2015. Yeah. So you feel like there's something there. There's some vibe. Sort of history there. Yeah, it's an old place.
Yeah, I think, at least as my experience has been as an investigator, once you genuinely open yourself up to the other side, once you start connecting, I think you're more tuned to those vibrations, to those frequencies and spaces. To know when you walk into a space, you pick it up. You know that when there's something going on there, whether it's something that's just a residual energy or full-blown haunting, you just kind of know.
Yes. I love how you use the term vibrations. Yeah.
Yes.
There's high and low. Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny you say that because I went and did a misa. It's a seance, but I have friends who they're legit practicing santeras. They practice Santería. And
really?
When they do a seance, it's called a misa. And it's not what you think of in movies. It's like they have an altar, they have water, they dress up in white. And it's very like they have saints and deities that they pray to. And there was a house that we were invited to because the gentleman that purchased it said that he's been seeing 2 men in the house, and his roommate has seen these men. They appear and disappear.
Yeah.
And when we were walking through, man, there was a section of the house like you felt like that vibration.
Yeah.
And I told him before I even knew like what they were seeing, I'm like, I feel very like a masculine energy. He's like, that's funny. The roommate has seen this tall black man like walk from one end to his room to the other to his closet and disappears.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
So it's crazy. Yeah.
And can you tell me or tell the listeners really more about the overall practice? And I'm going to butcher it, right? Because as my wife says, my wife is from Colombia, and she always reminds me of my gringo pronunciation of things.
Oh, yes.
But of
gringo pronunciations.
Can you tell us more about Santería? See, that was very, very gringo. And say it again for me, because it just sounds like just a song coming off of your lips.
Santería. Yeah.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about that practice.
The practice is not what you think of, what you see in movies.
Yeah.
Yes, there is, they do sacrifice animals, chickens and goats, but it's not what you think. And I've been a part of certain misas and ceremonies through them. So these 2 women that live here in Los Angeles, it's a mom and daughter, and the mom has been practicing Santería for 45 years. The daughter has been practicing and been under her teachings for 25 years.
Okay.
And not only that, they're also amazing mediums.
Yeah.
Amazing mediums. Yeah. And I mean, they literally see dead people. They see people. That's I mean, they were seeing a lot of the things that the tenants were seeing in that house to the T. And when you're practicing Santería, you are pretty much devoting yourself to this religion. And there are practices and steps that you have to take in order to get to a certain level. So I could walk you through the preliminary parts of it, but there is a part where you're given collares. Collares are beads. Okay. And then these beads are very important because it just shows like, that you're in the process of, being a part of a certain status in this religion. Okay. And then you go into another part where manos de sana. I could be wrong, but there's another level. And then there's another one where you go to Cuba. You have to go to Cuba. You have to work. You have to cook and feed the people and do humanitarian efforts there. So that's what they do, and they practice. And there's a practice where you have to go on your knees and walk on your knees from one location to a cave and pray to your deities or your other gods. And then you go to
is this a very specific cave, or will any cave do?
It's a specific cave in Cuba. Yeah. It's a very specific cave. And you do your santos. So you pick a saint that you work with. So it's not like people think, oh, it's evil deities. No, they work with saints.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a parallel with it's like almost like a Catholic Christian religion. Yeah. But they work with them, and they work with other gods, and they work with other, I can't remember the name, orishas. And they have altars, and these altars, there's glasses of waters, there's keys, there's a rosary, there's candles, and it has to be white. And there's, a bowl with water that you do your limpias, you're cleansing yourself. And there is another practice, is a secondary practice, is kind of like more of this is where people get a little more interested. It's called Payomayombe. And Payomayombe is more like, people are like, oh, that's the dark. That's the negative side. It's not. You're just working more with the dead. Yes. And it's more like you're working with the cauldron kind of thing. Yep. So it looks a little different. Right. Another question I'm sure people are probably asking, what about the animals? They sacrifice. Part of that religion this is how it works. When people feel like they're being spiritually attacked, they have an attachment. The highest priestess of that religion is trained to sacrifice the animals, which is a chicken or a goat, primarily a chicken. So what they do is they slash the chicken, they break the neck. And what that means is they're giving the blood to the deity, their god. They're feeding the blood to the god. And then what happens to the chicken? They don't throw away the chicken. They eat the chicken. Of course. Because it's waste not, want not. Yeah. And that is part of the practice. It's like you're feeding the blood. You're feeding the blood to the god and you're feeding yourself. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what it is. It's not like, oh, we're doing it just to kill animals. They don't kill animals. If anything, they love the animals, but the chicken and the goats are something that they feed the gods and feed their communities.
Yeah. And when you think about it too, just in terms of the practice of sacrifice and just the concept of sacrifice, a true sacrifice is through love and is of love. And so that's interesting. Yeah.
Yes, you just said it right there. After we did the seance and misa, we had a beautiful dinner. And that is part of the process. Like you feed people. They feed when they go to Cuba. Cuba, is third world. It's impoverished, and they go there and they feed the community. They feed people who are really hungry, and that is part of their practice because that is a sign of showing high vibration and love.
Yeah,
and it felt very positive. It felt very loving, and it felt very comfortable. And I think that's the thing that my friend and her mom try to do so hard is trying to teach the religion to people. And like, this is not what you see in Hollywood. This is a completely different practice. This is how we practice it. And this is how we contribute to the community itself. And it's not an easy religion to devote yourself to. No. It's a lot of things you have to do. Like one of the women there, they had to, I think it's for a year. They can't shave. They have to shave their head. They can't wear makeup. They can't look at themselves in the mirror. They have to sleep on the floor. It's a lot of sacrifice, but when they come out of it, it's like everything smooth sailing from there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was more than I really knew as well. So I appreciate it.
I learned a lot from her because I'm like, tell me what, besides the Sublime song, like I don't practice Santería.
Yes. And I do love that song. That is a great song.
I've learned so much through their eyes, and being a part of those misas, it's completely different. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And I think that's, when we talk about life, experiences on this show and how the paranormal impacts that, in a bigger sense, the paranormal, in my view, is just a part of spirituality, right? And so to be able to experience something like that through others is, it's altering your life experience. It's making your world bigger. And I think that is just such a gift, and just speaks volumes to the person that goes out and seeks this knowledge, right? Is just another, I would say, is another, hats off to you moment here for me. So I do want to back up for a second, just something that was kind of been tickling the back of my mind. So you had your first genuine, what you feel was your paranormal experience a little later in life working in the theaters. Do you think you may have had other experiences earlier and you just were unaware, or just took it as this is just normal for the town?
Yeah, I think I did. Like growing up, like I would have weird dreams. And I remember after like my grandfather passed, like he would come and visit me in those dreams. And I never thought anything like out of the ordinary about it. Like to me, it didn't feel different. It was just like, oh, I'm dreaming of my dead grandfather and he's coming in to say hi and goodbye. Because we didn't get to have that departure. I didn't get to say goodbye to him. So when I, started, I think the older I got, the more open I was becoming, and it's so weird because like when you work with actors, especially if you're an actor yourself, a thespian, I was told like, the actors are big conduits. Like you are opening yourself as a performer to speak the words of the dead, speak the words of Shakespeare and all these dead playwrights. That. You're right.
I love that.
You're pretty much summoning those. You're summoning with the words of the dead. And that is very palpable when it's like absorbed into the wooden floors and walls of the theater. That's another contribution of why theaters are haunted. And I feel like as I was training as an actress before I got into costuming, I was becoming more and more open to my environments. So it's no wonder why I would see this. I kept on seeing this man in my mind's eye, but in the corner of my eye, I'm like, there's someone there, I can see him.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. You just blew my mind a little bit in sharing these beautiful theories around why theaters tend to be universally haunted.
Oh, yeah.
And just bringing a voice to the dead in that way. And on this level that is, as artists, I think we can really, we can relate to the emotion that goes into creating, into the creative process, whether you're a playwright or a songwriter, your heart and soul are going into that which you are creating. And then you think of others then bringing voice to these works after an artist has passed away. That is incredibly powerful, because in a way you are channeling. You are channeling a specific moment in the life of this artist, because at some point they sat down and wrote this play, or they sat down and they wrote this song and sang it for the first time. And that's incredibly powerful. And what a cool thing to think about. I'm going to be thinking about this for a while now.
Yeah. And I've had friends who, they're professional theater performers, and there are times where there's a piece of literature that hits them and they're on stage and they're delivering the words and they black out. Like, they give a beautiful performance. I'm like, you did so amazing. They're like, I can't remember. Like, I just remember just letting go and just going off, and I just kind of blacked out. I don't remember what just happened. I'm like, you gave a very spectacular monologue, and you got a standing ovation. That's what just happened,
Yeah, I think that's too, one thing I say as a performer. I did theater early on in life, but I've been a musician later in life. And those moments happen that I describe as transcendent.
Yeah.
You almost feel like it's almost like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
And I find that to be very spiritual as well. And I haven't performed much since I've gotten as involved in the paranormal as I have, but I've been putting a new band together and we'll be performing pretty soon. And I'm really interested to see how my experience as an investigator, my experience doing this show and having these incredible conversations, seeing how that impacts just being on stage and performing, or if I happen to do a cover of an artist that has passed away. I'm a huge Doors fan, and when I play my solo shows, there'll be Doors songs in the set, and just to see, is this going to be a different sort of experience for me?
Yeah, that's really cool. You
I love it.
Jim Morrison.
Yes, and I think that's a lovely segue. This was a little while ago that you shared an investigation that you did at the whiskey. And I would love to hear more about that. I was extremely excited to hear that you had investigated that space. That's one of the first places that the Doors played, and the Doors being one of my all-time favorite bands. And I think they're one of those bands that incorporated that spirituality, both sort of on the sleeve and in a more of a primal way, into the music they created, and not just in the lyrics of Jim Morrison, but just in this just wildly cohesive, organic musical machine that was the band. And so I just want to sit back and want you to tell me about the whiskey, from setting foot in there and just what it was like being in that space and the investigation, if you don't mind.
That investigation was really interesting because I did that investigation with Spooky Foodie. She was invited to go there. We went there like 6 months before that investigation. And unfortunately, there was a concert, so we couldn't do like a full-on investigation. And it was cool because Agent Orange was playing. And I was like, holy shit, it's Agent Orange right there. So I got a free show. We got a free show. It was cool. But we also got stories. So that's part of my process is let's research the place. Let's interview. Let's play detective. Let's sit down with the workers. Let's sit down with workers who've had experiences and those who have worked here long enough to have those experiences. And fortunately, we met this bouncer who's been working there for 5 years. And I had that recording, and his experience really intrigued me because he was a skeptic. He's like, I usually don't believe in this stuff, but something weird happened during a concert here. And he was telling us that there's a second level that you could, stand in and you could watch, from there, the stage. Mm-hmm. And he was watching this band, and out of nowhere in the corner of his eye, he could see this weird thing. Like it looked like water that was floating above the crowd. And he was like looking around like, why isn't anybody seeing this? And he's like, I know I didn't drink. I'm very lucid.
Right. I'm on the job. So I have to be lucid.
He's like, this is not a weird light. Like we don't have the special lights, show. Yeah, like there's sometimes, bands that come in and they have like weird light, performances. There's none. Yeah. So he's watching this thing and then it falls. It like falls into the crowd. And he said, there was this woman in the crowd that this thing fell on top of. It just looked like water falling on top of the crowd. And this woman reacted to it. She reacted. She was the only one out of this crowd that reacted. And then she kind of looked up and looked directly at him. And they both had this moment like, you saw that. Did you feel that? Did you just see that? And he said that he, to this day, is still trying to reconcile what he saw. Yeah. And I believe there was another band member. There was a band. I don't know if it was Motley Crue. I could be wrong, but there was a singer that shared the same experience. He was playing a set and he saw the same thing floating above the crowd. It looked like, and he said it looked like water. It looked like this weird watery apparition. It was the weirdest thing. That is not one, but two, maybe even three, because that woman experienced that reaction. Wow. So we went back there, I want to say a couple months ago, and we got to speak to more of the workers. Some of them had experiences, others do. And what we picked up on is that people have felt like they've seen what looks like people running into different rooms. Mm-hmm. Those rooms on that second level, the green rooms, hold a lot of history.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you see autographs from Billy Idol, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, The Doors. I mean, Led Zeppelin. There's so much history on those walls. And another thing that people have been noticing too is there's an apparition of a man that comes out from an office next to the bar on the first level and goes into the kitchen. And he's been seen often by the manager, by cook staff, by wait staff, by bar staff. Yeah. It's a residual. We feel it's a residual because it happens in the same area, the same time, and he's doing the same thing. He's a man in a suit that keeps on exiting, and he leaves out of this office through the kitchen and disappears. So based on our research, it turns out that the Whiskey A Go-Go was a bank way back in the day in the early 1900s. Oh, really? And it's alleged that someone may had taken their life in that office.
Oh, wow.
And they believe that that is the gentleman.
Interesting.
So that is another ghost story attached to it. When we were doing the Dead Bell and the Spirit Box session, we had a very strong female energy coming through, and that was Loretta Adler, who was one of the owners. Lou Adler was the owner of the whiskey. They passed away. Their son, I think Sean Adler, took over. He recently passed away. But a lot of the staff feel like they're still there. Yeah. Primarily Loretta. Yeah. And we asked if it's Lou. It didn't go off. Loretta, it went off. And Loretta, are you watching over everyone here? Yes. Loretta, are you happy with the people here who are running this establishment? Yes. Half of them are women. And do you love that? Do you love that there's women here that are taking over these big roles, you know? It's this place used to be so male dominated. Now, there's a lot of women that
are running. The whole scene from club owners to promoters to the bands.
It's the majority of them are women, and she was all about it. Like amazing. The bell just went crazy, and she was okay. So this is you. You're here, and you're watching, and you're happy. And she was like, yes, 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 yes. So, I mean, we feel like the overall thing is we feel that there's a lot of energies that just come and go in and out of that place. And it's going to be hard to really depict what's in there.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And gosh, I mean, you're giving me the chills as you were just telling the ghost stories, and there's nothing like a good ghost story. And then you mix a ghost story with music, and I am just hanging on every single word. And, you also did the Viper Room in that same period of time, or was that at a different time?
Oh no, it was the Rainbow Bar.
Oh, the Rainbow Bar and Grill.
That place is insane. That place has a lot of things.
So let's hear it. Break it down.
Patrons, it's gangster ghosts, prostitutes. It's a lot. So the Rainbow Bar and Grill is another old location because it was never the Rainbow Bar and Grill for a long time.
Right.
It was a market in the early 1900s, 1920s. And then it turned into a restaurant. Oh my God. The name of the restaurant is on the tip of my mind and I can't remember the name. But it was...
I'll drop it in as a caption into the video.
I'll do a little I have to go back in my notes. I know. But this restaurant was the Via Nova. There you go. The Via Nova. Yeah. It was called the Via Nova. And it was a very fancy restaurant. It was so fancy that Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe had their first date. And they still have the booth with a picture of them. They don't have a picture of them on their first date, but it's just a picture of them by this booth. And it's the booth where Joe DiMaggio waited 3.5 hours for Marilyn Monroe.
I think that adds up, though. Marilyn's late. You're waiting for as long as it takes.
You're waiting, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
and of course they have Lemmy. Lemmy's there. His statue and his ashes are there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of the Via Nova that is still very much intact in that place. Like if you go to the second level, you'll see a lot of the art tableaus, like the walls that still say Via Nova. There's still like this element of the Italian restaurant that still is very visible.
Yeah.
The owner is the son. He's the great grandson. So it's been passed down. The ownership has been passed down from, father to son. So he knows all of the history, the place inside and out, the people who partied there. He's partied with them and he's a really great guy. And they're a very tight-knit family, meaning they just don't accept people to come in and just investigate. Yeah. Like they really liked Ansley. They really liked Zachariah the Witch, who was the medium that read the place. And also, I mean, all of us that, joined in. And the place is very, very much alive with so much that the wait staff we interviewed, they said that they've seen people that used to work there come back. They've seen them in the restaurant. They've seen former patrons that used to spend every single day, every single time of their life in that bar coming in. There is a picture of a man called One-Eyed Jack who came through during a session that Ansley did. And it turned out that she recorded that session, posted it on YouTube, and this man's daughter contacted her and confirmed that everything that came up in that whole session was true. And that she was happy to know that her dad was okay and still, going to this place,
his favorite spot.
It's his favorite spot. Okay, so the biggest question is Lemmy there? Yes. And
you think so? Yeah.
Is very standoffish.
Yeah.
He never believed in ghosts in the living, and he still can't accept the fact that he's a ghost now. So
that is fascinating.
He comes in and out. Yeah.
Now, how did you know? How do you know? Tell me, what was the evidence you found compelling?
Compelling is just how he would respond. He would respond. And the way that Zachariah would pick up on Lemmy is that he was like, he's coming and going, and he's like, and he's laughing. He's like, what are you guys doing? Oh, you got your devices. You're trying to like summon the ghosts and stuff.
Oh, I love it.
And some of the workers were confirming like that is something that he would say.
Yeah.
The workers would know because they've known him. He would come in every day and spend hours and hours just hanging out and smoking and drinking and just getting to know people there. And it makes sense that he's there watching over everyone, watching over the staff. And he's not like someone that you see often. It's not someone that you hear, but he is very much felt in that space. Yeah. But another really interesting thing is people have seen weird apparitions on the second floor in the vampire's lair. So when I was in there, I kept on seeing it looked like a man in a suit and he was cross-legged and he was just looking at me like, what are you doing here? Kind of thing. Yeah. And he was very well dressed. And I'm like, I need to get out of here because I see this man and I hate it. And and they're like, yeah, people have seen men in suits in this level. And the owner's like, it makes sense because gangsters used to do their doings here and their dealings, and we can show you that they did their dealings. So they take us to this closet. It's a cleaning closet. And then he points up to the ceiling and he removes this board, and it's a room. It's a secret room that they found a few years back. They sent a busboy who was so small to go, because it was a tiny little nook. He goes up there. He's like, I see bottles, I see a table, and I see chairs. Like, this looks like a little meeting room.
Some shit went down in there.
Room. And then they found secret passages. So back in the day, when it was the Via Nova, these guys would go through certain passageways to look into the main dining room. So he takes us to the main dining room. He's like, oh yeah, it's right here. It's like a little crawl space. And we're like, oh my God. Like, this place, like, there's stories on top of stories. He's like, oh yeah, I mean, like, gangsters used to do their dealings here, because you had all these places here. You had the comedy, you had the comedy store down the street. That was, Tricadero's right there.
Yeah.
That was a big gangster spot too. So this was another headquarters. Wow. And during our other sessions, we kept on picking up women, and it made sense because the gangsters back in the day had a prostitution ring.
Yeah.
And that's where people would sometimes go and pick up women of the night. They would pick them up at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. So it made sense. Like, all these things that we were getting in different, times in different investigations, and the different times that Ansley and Zachariah would go, they would pick up things that they would get, like, validation from workers, from family members. It was always insane. And the biggest story I could tell you, Ansley caught the story from a gentleman that used to be a record producer. So he said, I used to come here when Van Halen, who was it? Who else was it? All these, like, big name bands, right? They were big in the 70s and 80s. And he's like, I could tell you there's 2 tables in the dining room. I think it was table 7 and another one was table 10. Okay. He's like, the dealings that I would have with these bands before I signed them in table 7 were the bands that had lead singers that died. Okay. And then the ones in table 10 were the ones that were successful. So he's like, every time I had, like, dealing with, a band, he said, I think he was the guy that signed the Doors. And he was like, Van Morrison. I mean, not Van Morrison, Jim Morrison died, and so on and so forth. And we were just, like, sitting there stunned at this story. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
wow.
The dealings that happened and the bands that were signed there by the people that, even, like, big executives would go and party there and would seek out talent. That's incredible.
Yeah. And you just think about the conversations that happened at those tables, and think about these musicians, sitting there before they're signed, stars in their eyes, and just the intense emotions they must have been feeling, where there's someone saying that I want to take your art and help you make a living out of it.
Yeah.
Just think about those moments, those literally these crossroad moments in a human being's life, in these, passionate, artistic human beings that I don't know if there's any scientific evidence for this, but it's word on the street is artists feel things a little bit more deeply, right, than those individuals that maybe don't utilize that side of their brain as much. And I'm not trying to piss off any non-artists out there. And I just think that you get that emotion just burned into the place.
You do. Yeah. There's so much history, especially in those tables. Yeah, just like you said, like, the dealings and everything.
I got to get out there. I really
you
do.
You guys have to come, and I'll introduce you to all those peeps. They're so great. That place, you could tell, like, the people that they love their job, and the people that work in Rainbow work in whiskey. They go back and forth.
Yeah.
And they've been working, like, a lot of the people that work there have been working there for, I'm not even joking, 15 to 20 years. They will never leave.
Yeah.
They love it so much. That's like,
beautiful.
I know. They're like, I hate using the term family. We're a family. Like, when we were investigating, they were feeding us. Like, they were bringing out pizza and fries. And we're like, oh my
gosh. That sounds like the best investigation ever.
The food is so good. Like, go and eat at Rainbow and get any of their pizzas. it's so their pizzas are delicious. And ask one of the wait staff for a story and you'll get it.
Oh my gosh. If I get pizza and a ghost story,
you'll get ghost stories. You get stories of, bands and stuff. It's crazy. And they're willing to share it. Like they're very open about it. So it's really cool. Yeah.
I love that. So how important is the storytelling and the stories to paranormal investigating in your experience?
It's very important because I feel that we get lost in the world of paranormal TV. We want the darker, negative, more grandiose versions. And when you're doing storytelling from my journey, you have to come from a place of empathy and understanding, and understanding too that a lot of the characters in these stories were actual people, and they have family members that are still living.
Yeah.
And you have to be very cautious too about how you present those stories and doing great research. And to be honest, like I've messed up, everybody messes up in their research. It happens.
Yeah.
And there is a process where you learn like how to be a little more empathetic and cautious with how you deliver it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with, how content creating is, there's this like shock effect that people want. And I feel like you have to be kind of careful with that, especially with these stories and how they get carried out.
I think so. I think, unfortunately, there is the motivation, which I understand the motivation for getting likes and subscriptions and followers to be able to continue doing what you're doing. I would imagine it's fairly easy to get caught up in that. I even have had moments of wanting to do X, Y, or Z, and then having that second thought of, that's just maybe not the most tasteful, or that's not what I'm trying to portray here. And for you, what are your, how do you keep yourself safeguarded from overall just maintaining that sensitivity for certain subjects, especially with some of the true crime stuff? How do you walk that line?
Oh, with great caution. Honestly, it was a learning curve for me. Like, because I mean, being behind the mics and delivering those true crime cases, like you have to be very careful with how you deliver. I know some people try to be funny and you can't. I mean, it's fine to have a little humor, but to walk that line, I mean, you have to, like I said, you just have to have a great understanding and great empathy that these stories can be carried out and can be shared like telephone.
Yeah.
And to be grounded is, to really have a good understanding of what these victims went through, and understanding that these victims also had like families and they had friends. Like when we talk about Elisa Lam, like people forget like her family is still alive.
Yeah.
Her mom is still grieving. Her friends are still grieving. And they always bring up I hate to bring up the Netflix documentary, but I've had many problems with that documentary because of the response to it. Like people were like, well, that hotel killed her.
Yeah.
We don't know. We really don't know what happened. Yeah. And has anybody really stopped to think that throughout that whole documentary, there hasn't been one single person related or connected to Elisa Lam that was interviewed? Like, it's all these web sleuths and people that were obsessed with this case.
Yeah. And it was very sensational. And
very sensational.
When I watched that, I could not escape the feeling of, what must she have been feeling and thinking in those moments, in those hours?
Yeah.
It must have been just so hard, whatever was going on.
Exactly.
And I feel that is the responsibility of we as storytellers that are going on these investigations or sharing these true crime stories, to portray that as effectively as we can. Because we also don't want to, again, like you said, there's a line with great caution, because you don't want to be doom and gloom. You want to share the facts, keep it interesting, keep it relevant, but also respect life that goes along with the story.
Yes, exactly. And that really, I mean, that inspired me to do another series that I'm coming out with very soon. It's called Haunted Thread, where I'm going to be building costumes I'm building costumes for ghosts.
Oh my gosh, I love it already.
Stories,
I
victims
love it
of
already.
stories. So the first one, I'm building a costume. I'm actually going to go into the shop and build and record today. It will be a dress for Sharon Tate. And
wow.
I will be diving a little bit into her crime and death.
Yeah.
But I want to honor her in a way of how she lived and how she died.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, she is a ghost. There have been alleged stories of, the house on Cielo Drive, the David Owen house, and how people claim that they've seen her or they've seen her walk up and down Cielo. But I feel like in general, she is a ghost. Her death does haunt Hollywood, still haunts it to this very day. And her story and her life and her legacy, is still circulated around the city. And I just wanted to do these types of stories to pay homage to them. Yeah,
that's beautiful. I love that. I'm very excited about this project. In particular,
it's a lot of work.
Yes, well, it's going to be a lot of work. It is a lot of work. My daughter, actually, this is one of the reasons why took a step back. She's a freshman in high school, but she just got involved with costuming for theater, and she has fallen in love with it. She's been learning to sew on the job. She's talking about gathering and all this other stuff that is just amazing. So I'm going to have to tell her about this project of yours.
Yeah.
I think she'd be very interested.
Let me know if she has any questions.
I will. Absolutely.
Let me know. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I cannot believe this time went by so fast, and we're not quite done yet. So I gave you the heads up about the don't turn around question.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to jump right into it with you. I'm just going to flat out ask it. Tammie, do you turn around?
Oh, absolutely. I just hit Control Z on my keyboard on reality and pretend I never saw a thing.
Okay.
Works every time, except for nightmares.
Yes.
There's no buttons for nightmares. Sleep paralysis, demons. No.
Yes.
I mean, I think for me, honestly, it's not today, Satan, but then I'll walk away, giving myself enough space so I could turn around.
Right.
And so I have more of a distance to run.
Right. So you have an escape plan.
Me battling fight, flight, or fawn,
Right.
Or faint.
Or faint, fight, flight, or faint. Yeah, I love that. Now, see, that's a t-shirt. Right there.
Yeah.
If you make that as a t-shirt, I'm buying one. Perfect. And I'm wearing it with pride. Wow. So, Tammie, can you let my listeners know where they can find all the amazing things that you're doing?
Of course. Yeah. I'm at Hollyweird Paranormal on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We also have a website, hollyweirdparanormal.com. We'll be also running a panel at the first annual Windy City Parafest in Chicago, Illinois from June the 12th through the 15th. And you can find tickets and info at windycityparafest.com. It's going to be really delicious. There's investigations, panels, and even deep dish pizza, I think, somewhere there. It's really great. It's going to be really fun. There's a lot of wonderful individuals that will be in attendance. And if you're interested in my new series of Haunted Thread, you can follow me on Instagram at The Haunted Thread. And we should be launching my first episode, I think closer to late March, early April.
Okay.
And our first episode will be covering Sharon Tate. And you can also follow more of my stories on TikTok. I'm at Haunted LA Girl, which I might have to change to Haunted Thread, but just so everything's so cohesive, because I will be sharing a lot of what I'm doing with Haunted Thread on TikTok. So yeah.
So excited.
All over the place.
That's great. Well, Tammie, thank you so much for joining me here for this brilliant discussion. I would love to have you back sometime.
Let me know. I'll be back.
You know it. You know it. And to you listeners, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing this episode, for leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts, follows on Spotify, follows on social media at Don't Turn Around Podcast. It is truly my honor, and it is such a privilege to be able to share these stories with you. With that said, we'll catch you next time.
just don't know what really causes this phenomenon. So this has been going on for a very long time, but every time it happens, the scientists come up with a new quasi-scientific explanation for it. We just don't know what really causes this phenomenon. And that's what the witnesses are always describing, incredible as it is.